I know it's been a while since my last devlog, but I've been busy, life. And but I got a treat for you guys today. Today I'm going to be showing off one of my unfinished dungeons and going over some of the additions that I've added to the battle system. Now, I know in my last video I said that I would show off the nightmare system and go over to the equip system, but right now it's still cooking. It's not ready yet. I might go into some details, some new details towards the tail end of this video. But for now, I just want to go over some of the new changes, some of the new additions that I've added. And speaking of additions, I've been really thinking about sort of the meta or the deeper aspects of this battle system, and I think I figured out the more difficult aspects and the more, as far as like customization and player expression, as well as some of the higher level fights towards end game, and where players can really seek to get a challenge and overall balance. Basically, just think of it as like the top of the pyramid is just the basics of what you can expect from the battle system, like just the basic player entry level. And then as you work your way down, it gets more and more complex. And just recently, I kind of figured out the framework of the bottom of this pyramid, as far as the finer details and mechanics of this battle system, what I can do and what I can pull off with it, basically, as far as challenging the player. And so that's actually a huge hurdle, even though technically there's not much that I can really show off besides maybe like some epic super boss, but I don't have time to work on a super boss right now. I'm trying to, now that I have the foundation set, I gotta really focus on getting the story together and getting the basics down before I move on to more of the niche stuff of this game. Anyways, let me get into my changes, or at least some of this pyramid that I'm working on. Okay, let's start off with mana, or the player's MP. As you can see on the right side of the screen, you'll see a portrait of the character, and you'll see two bars. The top bar, the yellow bar, there's a shield, which signifies the character's MP, and then on the bottom, obviously signifies the character's health, the green bar. MP is very important, and it don't really take that much of a traditional route of using, as far as in regular RPG Maker games, or just RPGs in general. MP is for skills. It's the higher MP, the more spells or techniques or whatever that your characters can use, and you usually have to use items to recover it, or maybe special abilities or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it, as far as the extent of what people use for MP. But in this game, MP is actually your defense. It's your first line of defense. Basically, if you take damage, it'll take the character's MP will drop before their HP will, and so you always want to keep your MP high, and you always want your character's MP to go before their HP goes. Because the cool thing about this system is that, like I've mentioned before, that the combo count is tied to you lose it if your characters take damage, if you get hit. Basically, the green bar. However, MP, that can get drained, and your combo count will still remain. It basically be protected, because it's, like I said, their MP is their first line of defense. So I thought that was a really good change, because it opens some leeway for mistakes. Like, let's say you missed the timing of an attack or enemy's attack. Well, if you have MP, you're still good. You can still keep on going. And obviously, it makes the player want to get as much MP as possible so they can continue to, to have the characters protected. And so, yeah, just think of MP as a second health bar, because the amount of damage they take to their MP is relative to how much health they would take to the health bar, basically. And the cool thing about MP is that the characters can get it back by dodging attacks. So if you dodge your attack at the correct time, where the characters miss you, you'll recover 10% of your maximum MP. So you get rewarded for dodging, not for hitting the opponent as far as recovering MP. So the better you are at being defensive, the more defensives you're rewarded with, essentially. It's kind of probably didn't word it the best, but yeah, basically the better you are at being defensive, the more your defenses increase, essentially. So that's one aspect of how mana works. And on top of that, as you guys know, there's active class changing. So, and each class actually has their own stats that the player will be able to customize to a great deal. So, like for instance, Zola, just in this particular build of the game, Zola's Untitled Caster class, or a healer class, the white class you see there, it has 3,000 MP. And her Zogan class, the sword wielding class, the samurai class, it only has 1,300 MP. So what does that tell you? If you want to quickly gain a lot of MP, you want to, on the defensive, you want to be in her Untitled Caster class, because you'll gain more MP from dodging, just naturally, since her base maximum MP is much higher than her Zogan class, her samurai class. And on top of that, you want to actually, you know what, I'll just go into Overdrives now. Okay, so basically, when the character's at full MP, you can make them go into Overdrive. In Overdrive is a button you press. It'll be the page up on the left bumper on a controller, and when you press it in combat, when the active character is moving, you'll see like a little yellow flash around the character's sprite, and you hear a little chime, and their next attack will be their Overdrive Attack. And their Overdrive Attack is basically like this. It's like the super move. Like if you're familiar with Street Fighter or games like that, Overdrives are basically each class's super move. And the cool thing is that if you're at full MP, let's say Zola's at 3,000 MP or 3,000 mana, right? Now when you switch classes, the cap, if you switch to the Zogan class, the cap is 1,300, so she'll drop from 3,000 MP down to 1,300. And you guys will probably think, oh, that kind of sucks, because if you switch back to the Untitled Caster class, it'll be at 1,300. She won't be at full MP anymore, right? Right. But the thing is, you can switch you can be at 3,000 MP for the Untitled Caster class, and when you switch to the Zogan class, which has a cap of 1,300 MP, you're still at full mana, which means you can swap to whenever you're above that 1,300 cap for the Untitled Caster class, you can easily just swap to the Zogan class, press the button down for the Overdrive button, and then you can swap back, and you're still good. You can take full advantage of this MP, how MP works. I know some players or some devs might think that's like an exploit or anything like that, but honestly, from a lot of playtesting, it rewards awareness and dexterity. Like if you're really crafty, you really know what you're doing, and you're really good with your time and well practiced, I think it's an awesome addition, and it can really lead to some creative ways to get your overdrives off. Because your overdrives, that's what makes it balanced, is that whenever you activate an overdrive, it depletes all of your mana. No matter what class you are, no matter what, your mana goes all the way down to 0, which means your characters are susceptible to health damage now. So you gotta really make sure you know what you're doing when you activate an overdrive, because it's almost like your characters are naked essentially for the time being. But the trade-off is the overdrives are extremely powerful. They usually build up the combo chain meter by a ton, or they just do a ton of damage. So you really want to be crafty with your overdrives, but there's a cost benefit ratio there. So even though you can kind of cheese them a little bit by swapping to a class that has lower MP to get your overdrive off, you're always, no matter what, you're going to be at 0 MP once you actually activate your overdrive. So you're still taking a risk. You still have to actually be methodical and make a real-time decision. And I think that on-the-fly decision-making is what's going to keep you engaged. You're going to really think twice about using overdrive. So yeah, and on top of that, the overdrive system that you can see, I mean, I think it's an awesome aspect as far as it changes the screen. You hear a cool chime. I have the little overdrive logo on the top right of the screen there, and yeah, it's exciting. It really sucks you in and really gets your blood pumping. So it's an awesome feeling to pull off an overdrive. Another interesting thing about overdrive is that it doesn't require any button inputs once you use it. So for your regular attacks, you have to time the button input correctly, otherwise you'll miss and fail. But for overdrive, that's not the case. It'll automatically crit as well, so you don't have to worry about timing for a critical hit either. Automatically critical hits. Now, on top of that, in one of my devlogs a while back, I mentioned how when you using an attack with a certain class and you swap over to another class mid-attack, the characters will change properties, or the attack will change. Basically, the sequence will change in accordance to whatever class you swap to. Now, this also applies to overdrives. So if you initiate, let's say for Zola, for instance, like her overdrive, here's what her overdrive does for her Yimbit caster class. She flies up into the air, as you can see, and she rains down a bunch of Yin magic onto the enemies. It's just awesome attack, and it builds up the combo meter a lot. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it has a lot of hits. And then at the end of the sequence, she heals the party and she revives any fallen allies. And a side note is that this is one of the very few ways you can actually revive your characters in battles, because in this battle system you can't really select attacks. It's kind of on rails essentially, but you can kind of steer it a little bit depending on which class you swap to in each phase. So you want to be defensive, you want to keep your party healed and healthy, keep Zola in the human caster class. When somebody dies, you want to pop her overdrive so that way you can get them back up. But anyways, during her overdrive, during the attack sequence of her overdrive, before she comes back down and heals the party, you can swap to one of her other two classes. So the Zogan class, for instance, if you swap to the Zogan class, she'll extend the attack portion of her overdrive by swinging out a bunch of sword waves from the sky. It hits all enemies and racks up the combo count big time. So there's levels to it, and for the other class, or the caster class, I'm not really showing it off now, but it has different properties of which we're going to do. But the Sogen class does a lot of damage, and it does a lot of it builds the combo count by a lot, and that's just one example of combo class extensions. Yeah, I mean, as you can see here, you can swap to each individual class, or to a different class, to extend combos of their original attack during the attack sequence. And sometimes they're kind of like combos, like almost like from Street Fighter, because once you initiate, okay, let's say for instance, you start the attack, you have to press the confirm button to hit the opponent, and before this sequence ends, you have to swap to a different class in order to extend it. Now, once you swap to a different class, you no longer have to press the confirm button to keep hitting the opponent. You can just rely on the directional buttons or whatever button you're going to use to swap to a different class, and they'll automatically continue the attack without having to worry about pressing the confirm button. So that way you can solely focus on when exactly to change to that specific class during this attack sequence that you're doing, which is important because the timings for some of these attack sequences are kind of tight, and they can be extended multiple times, and they each have branching combo paths. So just for instance, I'm showing out here where Zola, in her Infant Caster class, her basic attack, she's throwing out these little purple healing balls at the opponent. Normally she only throws out 2, but if you swap to the Zoken class before she's done throwing out these 2 attacks, the Zoken class will swing out a wave of 4 sequential sword wave attacks to extend it. Now, if you remain in the Zoken class at this juncture, then the attack will end. But if you swap over back to the Infant Caster class during this sequence while she's still swinging out these sword waves, the attack will continue, and she'll actually swing out another healing ball to get another heal off for her team. And on top of that, just for this particular attack, you can swap back to the Zogen class, and she'll swing out a huge sword wave that hits all enemies and racks up the combo count even more. So, and this is all just swapping back and forth, just pressing the directional buttons to get this off. The timing is really strict, as you can see, because it's very fast, but it's essentially a combos. Now, she has another class that she can swap to, so you can get a different effect if you want to go for more damage, but I'm not showing that off here because that class is... I'm just holding off on showing that class. But just for this particular video, this particular case, yes, there's actually branching combo paths that you have to be aware of, and you definitely want to utilize in order to maximize your damage and maximize your combo count, because in this particular battle system, each attack sequence actually has a lot of weight, because not every character attacks during each turn or each phase. And actually, I want to get into phases now and explain the new phase system that's been updated. As I explained before, phases are just turns. But they're kind of unique in this game in that if you take a look at the top left corner of the screen, right under the big score icon, you see phases or phase, and right next to the phase, you'll see a sword icon. Now, this sword icon, it represents physical, and on other turns, you'll see a blue staff icon, which represents magical. Now, depending on which type of phase you're on, physical attacks or magical attacks will be more prominent during that phase. So basically, on each turn, each class has two different style of attacks that they can use during each phase. Now, let's take, for instance, Zola. Zola's Unit Caster class is a magical class, which means on magical phases, she'll use a powerful AoE spell that hits all enemies and heals all allies all at once. And on physical phases, her Zogan class, which is physically prominent, she'll have a much more powerful attack that she'll use. She'll actually slash the opponent multiple times. Now, if you're a Zogan class on a magical phase, she'll only hit the opponent once, and it's not really as powerful, and it obviously doesn't rack up the combo count as much. And if you use Zola's Gimmick Caster class on a physical turn, she only throws out those two little healing balls that you saw. Now, obviously, each one of these attacks can be extended to get various different effects or whatever. But yes, each character's class has two different attacks that correspond to each phase. Now, this also applies to the enemies. Enemies have more powerful attacks. Let's say if you're fighting a magical enemy, they're gonna use more powerful attacks during a magical phase, and physical vice versa. And typically, the phase counter it changes, it swaps for each attack for each turn. I'm sorry. So if you start the battle off on phase 1, it's physical. On phase 2, you'd expect it to be magical, and then on phase 3, it's going to go back to physical, and so on and so on. And depending on what type of group you're fighting, let's say you run into a battle against an all magical group where these enemies are mostly magical. Well, the phase counter that you can see, it'll actually be it'll start off on magic. Yeah, typically it start off on whatever phase counter that you see, that whatever enemies you're fighting, essentially. So there's some strategy there, and then on top of that, there's bosses. Bosses will have some pretty scary moves depending on if they're magical or physical on whatever specified turn it's on. So if you're fighting like some big physical ogre boss, you can expect him to really be dangerous on physical turns, and maybe he won't be as scary on magical turns. So let's just apply just a little bit of strategy here. If you're fighting a big scary ogre boss and you're on a physical turn, you might not want to use Overdrives because that'll deplete your MP and you'll be more vulnerable. You might want to wait until it's a magical turn to use an Overdrive. That way you can be a little more strategic and a little safer. So right there, that's on the fly strategy that you got to apply. And so you're always going to want to be paying attention to the phase counter because that's a big deal. Now, like I said before, not every character attacks or is active on each phase. basically faster characters will get their attacks off more frequently for each phase. So with that said, how do I swap my character's class to a more defensive class, or maybe a class that has more MP when a phase shifts, even though they don't really act during that phase because maybe they're too slow or whatever? Well, in this game, I actually added a function to the shift button and the cancel button, or the back button, the cancel back button. When you press the cancel button, it'll automatically change all of the characters' classes to a defensive class that's pertaining to whatever magical or physical phase you're on. So each girl has 3 different classes that they have access to, and some of those classes are either magical or physical, but they all have at least one of each type of class type. They all have at least one magical class and one physical class. And so if you want to quickly get every girl to let's say the turn just turned physical, and you want to quickly get every girl to their physical class, well, you just press the cancel button and each girl will instantly change to their physical class, even though they may not be active. And they'll change even if they're in the middle of getting attacked by an enemy. So there's some really quick decision making that you can make too. It's like I said, it's a lightning fast battle system, and it's highly active. It's almost like, it's honestly, like, from playtest, it almost feels like I'm playing like a fighting game or something, like some sort of crazy action RPG, because there's a lot going on, and it's a high learning curve, but like I said, it's learning how to take baby steps for the player to get them up to speed and get them up to being able to do some of the crazy awesome stuff. But yeah, if you press the cancel button, no matter what, they'll swap to, everybody will swap to the class that corresponds with whatever phase you're on. Now, if you press the shift button, certain girls, if they have, let's say, Zola, she has 2 different magical classes and 1 physical class. Let's say we're on a magical turn. If you press the back button, she'll go into her Yimbit caster class. But if you press the shift button, she will go to her Blavik caster class, which is her more offensive class. And this applies to all the other girls that have at least 2 different magical or physical classes. So if you want to be more defensive during a turn and they're not active, you can press the cancel button, and every girl will change, and vice versa for the shift button. Every girl will change to the more offensive class. And I think this is honestly, I really like this, because now you can, well, going back to my pyramid, as far as the depths of the combat system, this design, it opens some doors and allows me to do some fun tweaking with this. So now, let's say I can add an equip or an ability that they can equip. So let's say during a physical turn, the first time, for Afida, for instance, her Praejic warrior class, which is kind of a tanky class. Let's say she has an ability equipped where, for the first time on a turn, whenever she swaps to that class, she'll have a shield or a barrier that's produced that nullifies 1 attack each turn. And because I can have this this can work at any time. Whenever I press that cancel button to get her to her physical Pragic Warrior class, that's basically an active block. So instead of like timing the confirm button, I can press the cancel button to not only get her to the class I want her to get to, but it'll activate this ability that she has equipped, that anybody can equip. I'm just using her as an example here, where she'll get like a little special shield that'll activate for one free block that won't consume any MP. And so just that kind of thinking, or that level of development, like I said, opens a whole lot of things I can do. It can either be a buff or defenses or just whatever, but being able to change your class, albeit it's everyone at the same time, but being able to change your class at any time, I think it's a really neat system mechanic. And this definitely won't be some of these mechanics I'm going over now, especially like the class swapping. That's not going to be unlocked right away, even though you have two different classes. I'm going to have the player really get to understand and know how each class functions before I introduce the class swapping, the combo extensions. So that way, once they do unlock the combo extensions, through a specific story event, because they already have a full understanding of what each individual class does, at least as far as what they have unlocked so far, they'll be able to really dive in and experiment and see how much these attacks morph and evolve depending on what they swap to, and really have some fun with that. So yeah, this is a big change to the system, and to me personally, I think it's really exciting. It's really fun to be able to just swap your class at any time, even when you're being attacked. And it's, from playtesting, it's not really broken as far as a balancing perspective, because like no matter what, if an enemy's attacking you, then you're pretty much going to get hit for the most part, unless you either dodge or whatever. So, and like I said, the combat is fast, so you want to make sure you know what you're doing. Now sometimes, like when I'm playtesting, if I don't really care what class I change for the other characters, like if I'm doing an attack and I combo extend, instead of using the D-pad, I'll just use the cancel or shift button to change the character's class for a combo extension. It's just another way to change class. It's just a different way, a different button I can press, because it achieves the same purpose, depending on what turn or phase I'm on or whatever. But yeah, I really like this edition, this defensive class changing essentially, and it really adds a lot of depth to the game, especially with the equip system and the assist that I'm going to add, the nightmares and all that. But yeah, overall, these are like the bulk of the changes that I've made, and I'm pretty happy with them. And yeah, I think I'm on the right track. At least I hope so. And one more thing I want to mention is that you might be able to hear it just subtly, but I've added some hit sound effects to the enemies. So whenever you hit the opponent, most of the opponents or most of the enemies are voiced, even monsters. So it adds impact to the attack, so you really feel like you're damaging. And on top of that, when each opponent has a death animation of some kind for the most part. So if you're fighting like a ghost or or like a fiend or whatever, you'll see their soul, like you see like their an animation of their soul dispersing from them, or them blowing up, or if it's a machine, you'll see a machine blow up or something like that. But I think little touches and little details like this really add immersion to the combat, and I've noticed it really kicks it up. Even though it's a really subtle, really small thing, I noticed it's made a huge difference, a huge impact as far as immersion and really feeling like you're really powerful. And that's the thing with video games. They're all power fantasies, you know. And the more immersed you are, you know, typically the more fun the game is. You know, so at least the more enjoyable it is typically. You know. So yeah, that's just one little tidbit that I've added. So you'll definitely see that more throughout throughout this game. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And this is actually another alpha build that I'm working on, and it's more further along than the last build that I had. I had a young streamer who been really supportive. Shout outs to D757 Gaming. He's out there. He's doing his stream thing. He's almost at 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys aren't subscribed to him, go and check him out, man. Go subscribe to him. Go. He streams all the time. You know, he's a real chill dude. Like him a lot. He'll play just about anybody's game if he has the free time. He's not like these people where you gotta pay him or put him on your list or whatever like that. He's real cool. He's real laid back. So definitely go check him out. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. And also there's some other content creators like that. Actually, I'm planning on sending an alpha build to. This particular build you guys see here will just be a small, quick dungeon, unfinished dungeon. But it's just for them just to kind of mess around with the battle system, kind of see what someone who's not the dev play, and kind of see their reaction to it. But the Nerd Mansion, he's a real cool dude, real supportive guy. He's made some awesome games. And in a way, he's actually he's inspired me to keep doing what I'm doing, you know, to get my game right there. Because this guy, he's already is at least like 2 or 3 games out right now, and I think he's working on a card game system that looks awesome. I mean, I grew up playing trading cards, so, and I halfway almost made this game like half card game, half what it is now, but. I love strategy, that deep strategy, and what he's doing. That I think that's awesome. So definitely go check his channel out. It'll be in the link will be in the description. And last but not least, the other person that will be getting a test build for this game is Gannon Miles. You know, and he's a real cool dude, man. This dude, he's got. I don't know what he does for his editing skills, man, but he's got some of the best edited videos, man. He's a real cool dude, real humble dude. Awesome content, top tier content, man. He's got the best videos, horror game playthroughs. They're awesome. I feel like I'm watching quality whenever I watch one of his videos. He's on his way. It's only a matter of time for him when he blows up, because his stuff is, like I said, he has some top tier videos as well. But he plays indie games, so he was gracious enough to I asked him, I approached him as far as to play my game, and he said he would. So I was really happy with that, you know. So. He's another person that I'm going to be sending this out to, and getting some feedback from. So yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to assess their feedback and continue on so I can get this public demo out, so all of you guys can finally see what this game is all about. So yeah, I know this devlog has ran a little long, but it's been a minute. I made some tweaks, and hopefully it won't be too long until I get to the next one. But I'll continue to upload my quick battle test like in the meantime. I think that's a good filler for now, so that you guys know I'm alive. By uploading this little quick battle test, I think a lot of you guys like them. Just to kind of show off any new locations or any new skills or attacks or whatnot. But yeah, like I said, I am working on getting those that Nightmare, the equip system down, but I don't want to show off the UI yet. And even for the build I'm going to send out to these other content creators, I'm probably going to have it where they can't even access the main menu at all. It's just going to be to fight monsters and just get a feel of the combat and to check the performance in this game, so I can kind of clean that up. But, yeah, guys, so thanks for sticking with me to this point. If you're still here, if you're still listening to me, you guys you're the cool fans. You're the cool guys, all right? So take care, guys, and until the next one, peace.